Well, howdy, good morning, and happy Friday to all of you joining us today. My name is Enrique Hasso. I'm the director of TMDSAS and outreach for the Texas Health Education Service here in Austin, Texas. And joining us today, we have our veterinary schools. First off, we've got Sarah Innes from Texas Tech joining us. Thank you very much for joining us, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Enrique.
So it's been a little bit since we had you on board with one of these sessions. So I wanted to ask if you could reintroduce yourself, and then why don't you share with us a fun summer activity that you're on, just so people know that you're not an AI robot and that you actually are a human being that does this.
Yeah, sure. So hi, thank you guys for having me. I'm Sarah Innes. I'm the Director of Admissions and Student Services for the Texas Tech School of Veterinary Medicine. I'm excited to be here. A little bit about me and my program is that we love Texas, we love New Mexico, and we love our rural and regional communities here. And so our whole mission of our school is to serve those communities through veterinary medicine. And so my great role is to admit students that have that same passion. And I work and love working with our students in that capacity. So if you love vet med, you love rural and regional communities, this is your program. And with that, you asked me about my summer, like fun things that I do. I love to travel during the summer. So I just went to see my sister in Raleigh. But I'm also planning on going to Nashville soon. So I try to keep that up going. And then I'm a little bit of a geek in that I read and I love C.S. Lewis. So that is a little bit about my passion, how my summer's going.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, you're definitely keeping it cool. We're down here in Central Texas. It's 11 a.m. and about 900 degrees outside. Uh, those of you watching, let us know where you're watching us from, and share what your temperature is, because I'm having a little wanderlust with this heat and this humidity uh, going on.
Yeah,
And then so,
it's
yeah.
78 here in Amarillo. So
Oh no, that's not fair.
sorry.
And I really appreciate you sharing some insights about the school. It really is with veterinary schools. There are a lot of uh, varieties in the type of work that y'all do. I mean, anybody out here that has ever been to a veterinarian, I mean, your veterinarian is your it could be your pet, your livestock's uh, podiatrist, dentist, uh, taking care of full bumper to bumper care for your animals. And so when we're talking about different aspects of healthcare for veterinary medicine, you really have such a diverse body to work with, both with your patient and then your patient's owners, who may be a whole different bag of worms to deal with. So,
Correct.
would you mind sharing with us just kind of what's happened in the past, let's say, year to 6 months over at Texas Tech? I know the Mariposa campus opened probably about a year ago now. And so,
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So so our program, I'll give you a little bit of back history, and if I go too far, you just stop me. But we actually are the second vet school in Texas, so we're brand new. We're still going through our accreditation process. We have provisional accreditation. It doesn't impact our students in any way, but by 2025, our graduating class will graduate from a fully accredited institution. So it takes a lot to get there, and we're one of the very few. There's 33 going now, 36 vet programs nationwide that are fully accredited, and that's one of us. With that, so in 1990, 1971, we began the process for the approval of a vet program at Texas Tech, though no funds were appropriated at that time. And then moving forward into 2018 was when they rekindled that flame for a new program. And from 2018 to 2019, within 10 short months, the community partners that surround us, as well as a love for vet med. There was tons of donors that came through and provided the program with $90 million in that short amount of time. So our facilities are completely paid for by community support, and we're very grateful to that. In addition, our legislation gave us tons of funding as well to help us be in Texas and supported. So in 2021, we opened our doors in August to our first class, and our students didn't exactly get the whole campus because we were building from there. So they actually did anatomy labs in Mariposa, which is our large animal station. So we have two campuses here in Amarillo. I don't know if you can see behind me, but that's Mariposa. And so Mariposa is our large animal arena, and that opened in 2021. And then our full campus was ready to go in 2022. So just about a little bit over a year ago. And then we admitted our second class August of 2022, and now we're about to admit our third class. So we are just growing and expanding. And I was telling Enrique earlier that we already have over 1,000 applications started for our fourth class. So we are very grateful, very humbled by the care and the love for our program, and that people are excited to be a part of Texas Tech. And I think it's very fortunate to see and be in this unique time, being that it's been 100 years since they've had another vet school, and that we've just been so blessed. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. There were some things in there I didn't know, including the fact that I clearly confused the Mariposa campus with the main campus. So thank you for clarifying that.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a few questions here that we've kind of gathered from our applicants who are calling in and asking questions about applying to vet school. But of course, this is a live session, so those of you joining us, please feel free to submit questions. We're live right now. I snapped my fingers, and you're hearing it right away. And so I really want to make sure that you all have take the opportunity here to ask Sarah any questions that you have about veterinary admissions, about the school in general. And shortly, hopefully, we're getting Dr. Glennon Mays from Texas A&M School of Veterinary Medicine to join us as well. So let's see. We're going to get started with kind of our $1,000,000 question of what key components will make somebody successful in their veterinary school application? Like, what can applicants do to stand out?
Yeah, for our program, so for us, I would like to start off with GPA. So once a student has met a GPA of a 2.9 of their overall science and their overall GPA from their undergraduate coursework, their GPA is blinded to us, meaning that the admissions committee, the interviewers, the screeners that review your application won't see your academic grades and won't see your coursework. So what does that mean for a student? Well, we solely look at life experiences and life attributes in a candidate to be considered into the program. We're different than most, whereas GPA and academic recognition is important, and it is important to us that a student meets the requirements. But once that has been met, knowing that you can meet our academic rigor for the program, we're going to be looking at candidates solely on those life experiences and life attributes. So what is weighed heavy on a candidate is their animal experiences and vet supervised experiences that are geared in quality versus quantity. And if you have quantity of quality hours, that's great. But we're wanting to see a student and how they would do well in the vet med world? Do they understand what it is to be a veterinarian? And specifically, are those vet experiences coming from rural and regional communities in New Mexico and Texas? So if you're coming from a small animal urban area, our students probably, would need to expand their horizons a little bit and go outside of that urban community to see if Texas Tech is the school for them and to gain those experiences. So, key components for us for a successful candidate is one, getting those life experiences in those rural and regional communities in Texas or New Mexico. And then, second, is life attributes. So, we have a values based culture at Texas Tech where we want to see kind heartedness, grit, integrity. Empathy. We want to see a student that has innovation and has a passion for community. And so if those are things that speak to you and you're living those out, say you have to work a full-time job while doing courses to pay for school, we want to know about it. And so there's opportunities in your application essays to speak towards that, as well as integrity and grit. Through our interview process, we always ask about, what is grit to you? What does that mean to you? And so that's a vital component to being a rural and regional veterinarian. And can you back that up with life experiences and tell us a little bit about yourself? So I would say what makes somebody stand out or stands out is somebody that has the same mission, that wants to go back and serve rural and regional communities of Texas or New Mexico, and has lived that out. We want to support a student that understands what it is to be a veterinarian in those communities, because we have jobs available now for students. This is the best time to apply to be a rural and regional veterinarian. And it's because there's such a need. So we're trying to fill that need. And if you have a passion for it, you're going to stand out.
Thank you very much for answering that. That
Yeah.
was a really good take on the current state of veterinary medicine in Texas.
Mhm.
And as a quick follow up, we do deal with a wide variety of applicants through TMDSAS, and I'm sure you've seen as well. What if somebody grew up in downtown Fort Worth and wants to apply to your school? What opportunities do you see often that show somebody's really committed, even though they didn't grow up in a
Yeah.
rural community, for example?
Yeah, so we have several students that come from DFW, Austin, Houston, San Antonio. They come from the metropolitan triangle, as we like to say. But what has stood out in those candidates is that they've sought out vet experiences, say while they're at College Station, if they're at A&M or at Texas Tech or wherever they are, and have sought out to see if rural and regional vet med is something that they're considering. And if they can showcase that, yes, I've shadowed or I've volunteered or I've worked in a clinic and understand what it is to be a veterinarian in those areas, then I would say go ahead and apply. But it's not for everybody. Our program is very focused in our mission, so it doesn't apply to everyone. But if you do have a passion and you see yourself outside of DFW, outside of Houston or San Antonio after you graduate, then we want you to come in and apply for us.
Thank you. I know we get that question a lot about folks that live in more urban settings and hearing the need for rural medicine and veterinary medicine.
Mhm.
All
And
right.
I'll add one more statement to that.
Yes,
Um,
please.
our secondary application. So once you've applied to TMDSAS, you'll do our secondary. We have added a new essay question to explain experiences. Should you not be able to get enough hours or quality hours, we want to hear about it. And so if you haven't had those opportunities because financially or you have family, all these different things that come up, we want to know about it. Because it's not just experiences, it's attributes as well.
Exactly. Exactly. And I do want to take some time to introduce Dr. Karen Cornell. Dr. Cornell, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, thank you, and good morning. And sorry, I'm a little late. We had a little miscommunication about who was participating today.
Oh, well, no worries. Thank you very much for making the time to join us.
You bet.
Would you mind introducing yourself for those folks who have short-term memory that don't remember you from the last time?
Sure. My name is Karen Cornell. I'm the Associate Dean at the DVM program at Texas A&M's School of Veterinary Medicine. I've been here for about 7 years now, and I am a board-certified small animal surgeon by training, but have moved into this administrative role and still teach a great deal of our professional skills in our program.
And just to put you on the spot as well, I asked Sarah if just to make sure that we're not AI robots, to share one fun thing that you're doing this summer.
One fun thing I'm doing this summer, I actually spent 2 weeks in Europe this summer, and
Oh,
yeah, interestingly, I went there having just torn the meniscus in my right knee, and so I managed to walk, 5 to 10 miles a day in Paris and London on a torn meniscus. But I've since had it repaired, and I'm doing well.
well, there you go. Thank you so much for sharing.
You bet.
And I hope you're healing well.
Oh yeah, no
Yeah,
worries.
good. So we are going over a few questions. Sarah had an opportunity to talk about the Texas Tech School of Veterinary Medicine. So I wanted to ask if you could take some time to share, the elevator spiel on
Sure.
Texas A&M.
Sure. So Texas A&M, we have been in the business for a long time, over 100 years. And that's not to say that we've had the same curriculum for that 100 years. So we updated our curriculum to make it more hands-on, more experiential, so that you feel comfortable as a graduate to be able to do whatever aspect of veterinary medicine that you need to do day one after graduation. So you will start in the first year here and basically have a hands-on experience with ultrasound, live animals, et cetera, right away. We pride ourselves in feeling like we can train people in all areas of veterinary medicine, and also pride ourselves in opening your eyes to all areas of veterinary medicine. It may be that an applicant knows exactly what they want to do, and that may be true, and it may stay that way, or it may be that their vision changes over time, and we feel like we can help you see the profession as a whole and help you figure out which area is for you.
And the legacy of Texas A&M veterinary medicine is widespread. You talk to any veterinarian right now, and you're still seeing that the vast majority of Texas veterinarians are Texas A&M, and so we're happy to have some help from Texas Tech also in meeting the needs of Texas all over. So we have a question that's come up from Ashley.
Mhm.
This is regarding letters of evaluation. Of course, these are evaluation forms for our veterinary applicants. Is it okay to have an evaluation from 2 veterinarians and 1 professor, but from high school? I graduated back in 2010 and have kept in contact this whole time with high school professor.
That's a great question. I would say for us, a yes to veterinarians is great. I'm not too sure about the professor in high school, but you can use anybody that knows your character, that knows you well, that can speak to your veterinary experiences. And so if that's somebody that knows you and has known you for a long time, obviously, then I would say go ahead. But I think the 2 veterinarians is very helpful in your review. Karen?
Yeah, I would say similarly, Ashley, I would encourage you to think about what somebody who's going to be reviewing your packet would look for. And I think they're going to be looking for somebody who can speak to your most recent demonstration of both work ethic, academic abilities, and experience. And so if this person hasn't truly worked with you for a long period of time, I would encourage you to seek somebody more recently that has, because we're looking for kind of up-to-date information on how you are demonstrating your strengths.
One of the things that we were discussing earlier had to do with the life experience of applicants and how that comes out in an application. I know one of the tools that had been used was the Casper assessment last cycle, but Since then, Texas Tech has now removed that requirement, and Texas A&M is now using the Acuity Insights, which is the administrator for Casper. Could you share kind of some of the insights that you are able to get from that test, Dr. Cornell?
Yeah, we're always trying to get to know the applicant in a way of not just what have you done, but how do you think? What are your values? How do you communicate? Um, and can you think critically? Are you ethically oriented in your decision making? And so with that, the Casper allows us to kind of assess that. And just you maybe mentioned something about this before I got on, but in the times of AI, there's a lot of work that could be done using AI to write somebody's essay or somebody's narrative. And so we know with the Casper, you're doing that kind of live in the same moment. And so we hope that that's a better assessment of really you and not somebody using AI. And so we really are trying very hard to get to know you in multiple different ways and venues and avenues in your application process.
Thank you. And Sarah, can you share a little bit about how Texas Tech will look into the different aspects of an application to kind of determine the same things?
Yeah, I think that's more so, through our secondary application. So we ask specific questions to a candidate regarding life attributes. I know that we did eliminate Casper, and it was just our admissions committee didn't see the need for it, and so that might be further assessed. But through interviews and through the application, we can really get to know a candidate. So we do in-person interviews. And I like that Dr. Cornell just talked on AI. We want to know exactly, from a candidate, from their, mouths about how they're feeling, or, all the aspects of that med that makes them passionate about what they're going into. So I would say, our interviews are really a key component to really getting to know a candidate and their ethical views and input.
Great, thank you both. Kind of digging along with the questions of creating a strong application. What kind of extracurricular activities or clinical experiences would an aspiring veterinarian look for in strengthening their application?
You want to go first, Karen?
Sure. I think anytime you're looking at an extracurricular activity, we are looking for, did you have a leadership role? Were you committed to that activity? And I will tell you that one of the things that we don't value is just the fact that you had a title in a club and that happened in 20 different clubs. Like, we want to see that you didn't just attend meetings for a club, but that you actually had an active role in that club. You were in an officer role and you explain what you did in that role, or you volunteer in a nonprofit experience outside of your academic setting, but you have a role there, you have a leadership role there, you've helped in something, that you've taken an active role, you're committed to something. When we talk about veterinary experiences, we like to see that you've had enough veterinary experience to understand what veterinary medicine is, that you're clear on that, and that you have had multiple experiences, meaning not just one practice your whole life. We'd love for you to get a couple of different views on veterinary medicine, especially from both the large and small animal side, because we are truly training people to go out and be mixed practitioners. We don't specialize in one or the other, because when we look at Texas and we know that there's 254 counties in Texas, 200 of them have less than 100,000 people. So Texas, probably more than any other state, is in need of people who can do a little bit of both. And so that's what we think a lot of people need to be ready to do when they graduate.
And I'd have to agree with that. We want quality versus quantity. I know I talked about this earlier, but for Texas Tech, those experiences are very important for us to know what kind of area of vet med you'd go into if you were to graduate from our program. And so shadowing and volunteering is very different than an internship, an externship, or actually being a technician or a vet assistant. So we really want to see quality of those hours. Is that student willing to roll up their sleeves and do what's needed for that clinic, or are they just shadowing for a day and really haven't had the experience to understand what it is to be a veterinarian? So I would echo the fact that we look at all aspects of vet med. So if you can get small to large veterinary medicine experiences, I would highly encourage that. As for extracurriculars, yes, we want to see some leadership, some academic recognition. We also would like to see, did you work outside? What kind of volunteering did you do for your community? Was there any community service? Did you play in sports? So, all these things accumulate as for overall view of what a candidate has lived through from high school on. And so you can start making notes now from high school into undergrad of all the hours that you've done in all these different areas. So 4-H, FFA, those are animal experiences that shouldn't be discounted, and we want to see those.
I just want to add something to that I really encourage all of you to pay attention to the directions on the application. Yeah. Where you put your veterinary experience is under veterinary experience, even if it was paid employment. So please, please, please pay attention to that. The other thing is, when you complete your narratives or you complete your essays, please answer the question in the essay. None of the questions say, why do you want to be a veterinarian? So don't do that. Answer the prompt, answer the question. And that's a frustration of our group when we read these, is that many people tell the story they want to tell instead of answering the question.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I see that Dr. Mays has joined us now. Hello, good to see you, sir.
It's good to be seen and not viewed. I apologize for being late.
Well, Dr. Cornell's been filling in, having some really great insights. So thank you.
You
Thank
don't
you
need
all
me
for
here.
joining.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Glennon.
All right. So we're on the topic of activities here, and one of the sections that we have in the TMDSAS application is the meaningful experience section, which is an opportunity for applicants to highlight 3 experiences. And so Elizabeth is asking, what all activity section can we pull from to talk about? So what have you all seen in your applications?
Yeah, I think for us, it's a vet med, of course, but we've also seen some, students that may be a student athlete. And so that's more geared to who they are, and that's meaningful to them. So it's not just about, yes, vet med is very important to us and those experiences, but we want to see a holistic view of an applicant and what they've, accomplished in their lives. So if you can talk about those 3 top things that makes you who you are, and shows us those life attributes I mentioned earlier, I think you're on the right track there.
Yeah, I would echo that. Any kind of participation in community activities. Maybe you were involved in a food drive or a blood drive. Maybe you have participated in high school activities that would associate with leadership skill sets or time management needs, communication. Perhaps you were involved with the drama club, or any of those activities that transcending or fast forwarding into the undergraduate years, we would be able to see how you manage not only your curricular and your academic requirements, that's your day job, but the other activities, the interests, the passions that you have, where you invest your time in any of these other activities as well.
Great, thank you. I want to come back to a comment that Dr. Cornell mentioned earlier about answering the questions on the application. I actually pulled up my dummy version of the application here so that we can go through exactly what's on the application that y'all are looking at. So the personal essay for veterinary school asks for you to describe opportunities and challenges, both veterinary related and non-veterinary related, that you have experienced and how these have helped you prepare to enter the profession. So, as Dr. Cornell mentioned, that's not asking you why you want to become a veterinarian. It's asking you what kind of challenges you've overcome in order to continue on this pathway. Obviously, you want to be a veterinarian, otherwise, you wouldn't be filling out the application, right? And then next up, we have our personal characteristics essay. Learning from others is enhanced in educational settings that include individuals from diverse backgrounds and experiences. Please describe your personal characteristics, your background, talent, skills, etc., or experiences that would add to the educational experience of others. And then finally, we have our unique experience essay, which asks, please briefly discuss any unique circumstance or life experiences that are relevant to your application, which have not been previously presented. Now, I wanted to bring this up because that last essay for other TMDSAS applicants is optional, but for veterinary applicants, it's required. What kind of things are y'all looking for in that unique experience section?
I think we're always looking for things that might indicate to us that this candidate has experiences that would make them resilient, would demonstrate their resilience. So it might actually build their resilience, but also demonstrate the fact that they're a really resilient individual. We've had people who have moved around the country constantly as a child. We've had people who just various things, even traumatic events in their life that have occurred that again, they've risen above that experience and been successful almost in spite of that experience, which demonstrates to us some unique resilience. And I think that's really important. That's just one example of the type of things that could be in that area. And I would invite Sarah Glennon to add to that.
Yeah, I think as well, we've seen students that talk about an academic difficulty that they've had to overcome. Say they didn't do well their freshman year and now have, proven that they can do the rigor of a program, and they've used those opportunities. And like Karen said, life experiences in that they've had to overcome. Everyone has challenges. Everyone has had to go through something, and that's your opportunity to show us that grit, that integrity that you've had to overcome those things. So we encourage you to utilize that question.
I guess I would just add that when I'm visiting with students, whether it's a small group or one-on-one or whatever the platform might be, I encourage them to use this application as an opportunity to introduce themselves to the selections committee representatives that are going to be reviewing their documentation. And I encourage them to be sure to tell their story, whatever that is, whatever that looks like, whatever that includes. And I don't know what their story is, but they do. Perhaps their significant other, their parents, or somebody else in their immediate life or immediate family can help them recall or work with them through trying to address some of these prompts. But it's an opportunity. It's a blank slate. It's just an open space to discuss whatever that topic means to you or however that applies in your particular personal life. Going back to that initial prompt, Enrique, I would also comment, as Karen has already said, but sometimes we'll read those essays and the candidate has done a nice job of talking about challenges and opportunities, but there might not be a direct connection or a very obvious connection that's very discernible on the initial review of the essay of how that might have prepared or influenced them to become ready for participating or admission into the veterinary profession. That really that prompt is multi-layered, and it can be a little tricky, apparently.
Yes, thank you very much for adding to that. During our application walkthrough that is available on our YouTube channel, we actually discussed some of the tools that have been shared with us by health professions advisors from around the state. And one of the ones I really want to emphasize right now is using the STAR method. It's situation, task, action, result. So, for example, situation would be my veterinarian didn't take care of our pet in the way that I wanted. The task here is identifying what it was that you didn't like about that situation. Perhaps it was communication skills, animal handling, uh, the ability, the bedside manner of that veterinarian, and then you take that and you say, "Here's how I can be better on these things that I've identified." And the action now will be that I will be a better veterinary provider because I've learned from this situation. And so that tells a much more compelling story than I'm sure y'all see these a lot. The manifesto of how one person is going to completely transform veterinary medicine because they're just so motivated. And while that is definitely admirable, we're not looking for one solution. We're looking about how you, as an individual, are going to make this profession better.
You know, there's not many applicants that I'm aware of that wear a cape. And I think your point is well made in that it's possible to learn from anyone, and sometimes what you learn is how not to do things or how to rise above those challenges, whatever that might be.
Right. Well, thank you. We get a question that our TMDSA support team gets very often, and I'd be hard pressed if we didn't ask this of you all. But of course, the rumor mill goes around. For what reasons would an application be thrown out? So there seems to be this concern by applicants that there's one word they can drop into an application, it immediately gets thrown out. Can you all share situations where apparently holistic review goes out the window and you just decide that nope, we're going to pass on this applicant?
If you don't meet the minimum requirements.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Otherwise, everybody gets.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, as long as you meet the minimum requirements, we get all the letters we're supposed to get. You have a complete application packet. You will be reviewed.
Yeah, I would echo that. And then in addition, like if you're not a Texas or New Mexico resident for tech, that will get it thrown out, and not submitting by the deadline.
Yes.
That's a good one. And we've shared a link to the admissions webpage for both Texas Tech and Texas A&M Schools of Veterinary Medicine. So when you're looking at some of those requirements, definitely pay attention to those as you're going through your application. But you meet those minimum requirements, and your application will be reviewed. It's good to know. We're definitely going to save that soundbite and play it ad nauseum as we get that question. Another question right now. It's close to mid to late July. The application's been open since May 1st, so a lot of our veterinary applicants are asking, when should I even submit my application? Do you all have some advice on that?
By the deadline. And for tech, we do have our secondary that's by invitation. So if you can get it in sooner than later so they can verify, or TMDSAS can verify your residency for us, that would be helpful. But as long as it's in by the deadline, they'll be good.
What I tell candidates is when you think you have that application is polished and perfect, is you know how to make it. And there's no advantage for submitting it early, but by all means, don't wait till the last very minute, because computers crash and problems with the internet occur. And if you don't meet the deadline, then your application is not reviewable.
And I would just point out that the deadline is indeed the deadline. But if you are done 2 weeks beforehand, submit it, because there is a delay, not long, but there is a delay between when the applications go to TMDSAS and when we get them. And so the sooner that we can start to review all the applicants, the sooner we can get a decision out to you for who's being interviewed, the sooner we can get a decision to you for who's going to be admitted to vet school. And so I think one of the things I would tell you is, yes, the deadline is the deadline, but the people who submit at the last minute just slow everything for everybody.
That's right. And it's almost like a game of chicken every year to see who's going to submit at 5:01 and as close as possible. But at 5 o'clock, that application will shut down, and unfortunately, you would have to wait till next cycle. And as has been mentioned, it takes us up to 4 weeks to process applications and get them out to the schools. We try to do a lot better than that for our veterinary applicants because there are additional requirements and a very tight timeline to review and get invitations for interviews out. But by all means, if you're ready to submit your application, go ahead and submit it. We're ready for it here at TMDSAS. All right. And just as a reminder, we mentioned the deadline without mentioning the deadline. For entry year 2024, the application deadline is September 18th. And that is also the deadline for any electronic evaluation forms, meaning that your evaluations have to be submitted by that time as well to make that full application available to the schools. So this is a little bit of a different timeline if you're used to hearing us talk about medical or dental applications. But I do want to emphasize September 18th is the deadline for this application cycle, and everything has to be in order for us to move forward with submitting that. All righty. So I know we are a very collegial group here, but just for the sake of a practice here, I want to ask the million-dollar question. We do have 2 different veterinary schools in Texas now, and largely within the region. So, what kind of things should somebody be considering as they're thinking about attending a different veterinary school in Texas?
I would like to share the best advice I ever got, which was, and it was about choosing a job. So this was after vet school, but it applies here. And that is, and so I've modified it a little bit. So this is not exactly the advice I got, but it's close. First of all, I would say vet school is hard no matter where you go to vet school. Mm-hmm. So when you choose the vet school, you should choose, where do I want to wake up every morning and go, even when it's one of those days that I'm like, oh, I don't really want to get up and go to school today. You better be happy with your choice. So, you can do lists of pros and cons. And the person that was talking to me said, you can do pros and cons of jobs all day long, Cornell, but in the end, you got to pick, where do I want to wake up in the morning and go every day? So that's what I would tell you. Where do you want to wake up in the morning and go every day for the next 4 years?
That's really good advice. And so I would like to echo that, but also know what is the school that's providing you? What's their curriculum like? Is that something that you see yourself in? We have a different program than A&M in that we have 3 years of clinical skills and your didactic courses before you go into rotations. We send students out all over Texas and New Mexico. So that, that's a big factor, as well as cost. Tuition is, not cheap for vet med. And so you are moving your life, you're moving your family, there's a lot of factors that go into that decision. And so, we want our students to be happy with their choice and really have the passion that we have for, our mission for the students as well as for our school and our communities. So if that's what speaks to you, then I would say apply there. But also, don't put your eggs in one basket. Make sure that you have options and see, what is the best place where you want to get that offer letter and, what's going to make you happy.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't share that applying to one vet school or both vet schools is the same price for you. Which is a really great value that we have here in Texas. If you were applying through VMCAS, that secondary application fee might be as expensive as the TMDSA's primary fee. So we do what we can here for our vet applicants. We got a follow-up question from Ashley regarding the evaluation forms, and it's a 2-parter. Thank you for answering. Just so I understood correctly, letters can be from all veterinarians, 1 or 2, and any other person who can speak to my work experience.
Yeah, your work.
Yes.
I would say your work or your academic experience, right? Like, I think we just want to know about you, and it needs to be firsthand. We kind of joke all the time. No, one letter does not have to be from a
No.
place. It could all 3 be veterinarians.
Great.
Yeah. And I would say, as long as it's not family,
Yeah.
mom and dad can't write it. Even though they love you and adore you, we want somebody outside of that little family union. So be mindful of that. And one veterinarian is our only requirement, but the other two can be faculty, can be a boss, can be, a mentor, somebody that can speak to, your life experiences in a vet world.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that the evaluators are the third person perspective in your application. So you can go in and talk about how wonderful of a person you are in your application, but it's those evaluations that can reinforce those statements. So, we talked about life experiences and how those come into play in veterinary medical education. We talk about care for patients. We talk about working with different species of animals. Those you can talk about those all day, but hearing what a third person's perspective was like and interacting with you, whether they can foresee you as one of their veterinarians in the future. I think that's the kind of things that the schools want to see in those evaluation forms. All right. We've got another question here from Elizabeth about leadership. Can I count being maid of honor as a leadership role?
While that is a lot of work,
Yeah.
no, it is not a leadership role.
No.
Sorry.
I would
It's
say
a lot of work.
yeah, extracurricular, maybe.
Yeah.
Perhaps,
Mhm.
and so just to emphasize for leadership roles, it's not necessarily just the title that's important. It's the work that was performed there, um, and so really avoid kind of trying to overload the leadership section with every little thing that you've done, and really put in meaningful leadership experiences that you've undertaken. All right, we're about a few minutes out, but I wanted to share an opportunity for you all to kind of share some advice, some words of wisdom or encouragement to our aspiring applicants here. We'll go ahead and get started with Dr. Cornell and Dr. Mays, and then we'll end up with Sarah here.
So I think my words of wisdom would be, one, make sure that you proofread your application. Make sure that you have used appropriate grammar, punctuation, etc. Really show us that you have attention to detail. And then the other thing that, and this is digressing just a little bit, Enrique, but I wanted to kind of point this out. I think that both schools require interviews and both schools use them differently, or at least administer them differently. And it's important for us, for you to understand why we do ours the way we do. We take your application packet and read it, and that's how we get to know you. And that's why it's important that you answer those prompts, that you give us the information that we really request there. So that's your opportunity for us to get to know you. And then our interview process, because it's a multiple mini interview, meaning it's very structured, whether we do it remotely, which is what we do now via the Cura Talent program, which allows us to not force you to pay the money to travel here, et cetera, and allows us to really objectively assess those. We're gonna objectively assess those just like we would do if you were in person. And so if you were in person with us, it wouldn't be any different. It would be, please answer this question. And the interviewers are trained to be very neutral. There is no smiling and nodding and that kind of thing. We really are just looking for, how do you respond to those situations? Are you able to think critically? Are you able to communicate? And that's going to be the same whether you're here in person or whether you're doing it via Cura Talent, which our goal there is to keep the cost down for you and allow you to put your best foot forward. And I think that many people feel like, oh, but I could convince the interviewer if I was there in person. And truthfully, no, because you don't get the opportunity to go off script, right? Is answer this question. So, and there are 6 of those questions, and we get a great opportunity for both our admissions group and our practitioners who help us to assess those interviews. So I hope that you understand that's different, and I'll let Sarah kind of address that, but I think they use their interviews more as a get to know you type event. And that's, we feel like we've already gotten to know you in the packet, and what we want to know is, can you do these different skills? And that's what we're assessing.
Yeah, I would also say to applicants that as far as the multiple mini interview platform is concerned, there's an opportunity for you, following the completion of that one station or that scenario with associated prompts, to take a breath and compose yourself, recollect yourself, and then go on to the next scenario with those prompts that are associated with that next station. And the people that are reviewing your responses on that subsequent scenario have no idea whether you bombed it on the scenario before or whether you knocked it out of the park, because those are typically different people that are reviewing those different or those respective scenarios. And so it's not the same reviewers that go through or follow the applicant through the MMI process. And so if you can consider each new station or each different scenario with the prompts that go along with that as a new beginning, then maybe that will give you a little bit different perspective. The one thing, and I know we've said it, and I don't want to beat it to death, but I am going to say one thing that I suggest to people is in telling your story, don't be embarrassed or don't believe that or be wondering if it's believable if you have an extraordinary amount of whatever animal hours of experience, veterinary supervised hours of experience, community activities, whatever those different categories might be. If you're curious if it makes sense, put it on a timeline. And if it's understandable how you could have accrued a ridiculously high number of animal experience hours, then don't be embarrassed to report that. That's part of your story. So tell it. Just be able to support it with documentation. The other thing that maybe isn't necessary to say, but I'm going to say it out loud anyway. Back to those prompts on those scenarios, those essays. Let somebody read your essay and then tell them what the prompt is. Do it backwards, and perhaps that will be a different perspective of whether or not the prompt was really addressed. And I'll be quiet now, and Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think both are great, and definitely heed what Dr. Cornell and Glennon have stated, because we see the same applications. We want the same quality. So yes, grammar is important. Have somebody review it. Don't just submit in a rush. Take the time to really prepare your applications for us. And towards the interview stuff, we do in person because we want to get to know our candidates. We bring you out, we invite your families as well, so you get to know what our program is about. And that's always done the first week of January. And if you've gotten to that point, we are very interested in you from the review of your applications. So if you are getting an interview, it's an in-person, relaxed MMI. We do panels, we do tours, and we really show you what Texas Tech is all about. And so from there, we do a selection process. But I will say it is competitive. So what's going to stand out is somebody that, is aligned with our mission, that loves rural and regional communities, that wants to go back and serve those communities of Texas. And we're not for everyone, and that's okay. But again, I would just say proofread, follow instructions, make sure that you have somebody review, ask the right people to do your evaluations, because sometimes that can make or break a candidate. So that would be my advice for y'all.
Thank you all so much for your insights. They're very thoughtful and very, very much needed. I know we have so many applicants out there that have a lot of anxiety. They've been working toward this for years and years. And so hearing these pieces of advice directly from our schools is really meaningful to them. So I really appreciate each of you taking the time today to join us. And for those of you who watched this session, we very much look forward to your application on behalf of Texas A&M School of Veterinary Medicine and the Texas Tech University School of Veterinary Medicine. We want to wish you all the best of luck, and we look forward to seeing your applications this next cycle. thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.